I've done terrible things, and I know I'm going to hell. And for what? So that Franco Riccardi and his family can live in luxury. It's the same in every racket. The mules like me do the dirty work, the smart men, the Riccardi. They're the ones who reap the rewards.
Salvatore tried to ease the pain. He told me that Emilio Dante had struck a deal with our main rivals in the city, the Caporino, that this was all they're doing to discredit you and get you off the scene. He said the trial would prove your innocence, and in the meantime we needed to hold together. But I could barely hold myself together. Whatever Salvatore told me, I knew at least some of Dante's words were true.
We got rid of Rocco Giuliano on June 11th, 2004. I met with Franco and Raffaele. We drove across to Avellino.
The police had taken half the house but hadn't thought to bother with my diaries, and the dates matched up. A lot of them. They matched up perfectly. These were not the made-up ramblings of a liar. But I couldn't begin to face the truth. I knew if I did, I would probably lose my mind. And I was scared that I was losing my family.
Hey, crazy things are happening. This is Nino. Leave a message.
Nino hadn't been seen since the night of our blazing row. He'd gone to a bar in Forcella and watched the football. After that, he hadn't been seen.
Donnie, listen. If you know where he is, you've got to tell me. It's important.
I don't know where he is. How should I know where he is? You think he tells me anything?
We think he might have taken a trip somewhere.
What kind of trip?
Amalfi, maybe further down the coast. There's a girl I didn't know about, but there's a girl.
Who is she? Do you know?
We have a name. She's just a kid from Secondigliano. We don't think there's anything to worry about.
Really? Why is that? Why am I racked with worry, Sal?
Maybe he heard he was being shipped out to Canada.
Did you tell him?
No.
Neither did I.
We found out later what had happened. He was with a girl, a pretty girl. Her name was Laura Mascagni, only 17. They were driving up the coast.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come and set the night on.
Oh, damn. We're out of gas.
There was a petrol station up ahead.
Hold tight. We're gonna get there.
No time to wallow in the mire.
Give me 20 on number 5. And I'll take a pack of Luckies.
Yo, Nino!
All three of them were killed in the blink of an eye. Nino, the man who worked the late shift at the petrol station, and poor Laura, who Nino had met just the previous day and was looking for some fun.
I'm standing outside the Church of St. Francis near Sorrento, where hundreds of people have gathered for the funeral of Nino Riccardi.
The funeral was a terrible affair. Even here, the TV cameras, the photographers, were these our good friends in the media? And dozens of teenage girls weeping as if he'd been James Dean or Kurt Cobain. I knew you blamed me for Nino's death, for not being vigilant enough. I, of course, blamed you. Vengeance. That's all anybody talked about. A man, I thought he worked for the church, approached me with solemn dignity and said,
"They'll pay. We'll find out who did it and balance the ledger. Rest assured, we'll balance the ledger."
But anyone could have done it, I realised. Nino had made so many enemies over the last few years, I now discovered. The only reason he'd stayed alive as long as he had was because he had his father's name. But now, with you in prison in Sardinia, your name was not enough.
Amadeo!
A journalist managed to squeeze past our security.
What do you say to your brother's killers? They're scum, they're dead. I'm gonna hunt them down and kill them with my own 2 hands.
Poor Amedeo, trying to act like a man for the world at large. A terrified kid who just lost his brother and whose father was in jail. But the journalist had his coup.
His younger brother, Amedeo Riccardi, vows vengeance.
They're scum! They're dead!
Now Amedeo was at risk. Even I knew that. The men who killed Nino wouldn't hesitate to murder him, just in case. Amedeo's declaration of vengeance guaranteed it, insisted on it. And then I realised, this was a coup. I understood that now. Remove the king and kill the heirs. And me, of course. And why not Antonella too? Isn't that how it always is when there's a coup? Kill the entire family just in case? Isn't that what they did with the Romanovs in Russia? How old was Anastasia, 17? We got out of the city and back to the house, and increased security tenfold. My son was dead. My husband was in prison. Now so was I. When you tried to call, I didn't answer.
Pick up, for God's sakes. What are you doing? You think it's easy to get hold of a phone?
What are you doing? Why aren't you answering? Hi, Dad. Sorry about that. We were just out in the garden.
I loathed you with a passion I'd never imagined possible.
You need to talk to Frank.
I don't know what I'd say to him. Marisa Piranesi's right. Emilio Dante's right.
What?
Let me read you something. Franco Riccardi was out of town that week. He was up in Florence. We took our time with this guy, and Franco took a real interest.
He called us about 6 times that night, I think, to see how we were getting on. We burned his body in the incinerator at the back of the restaurant. It was May the 25th, 1989. I remember the date because it was Padre Pio's birthday.
May 25th, 1989. That was the day I met him. He took me out for dinner. Dante's right. Franco made half a dozen calls that night.
My apologies. Business. Sometimes it's 24 hours. I come away for a few days, you'd think they'd manage, but... Okay, enough. Apologies. From now on, you have my full attention. Salute.
Salute. So what is it that you do?
Oh, it's not so interesting, but it pays the bills. I work for my father, import-export, that kind of thing. But tell me, what do you do?
I'm training to be a teacher.
Oh, I envy you. You're doing the most important job in the world. The children are our future, and you're guiding them.
Not yet. Maybe one day, if I pass my exams, if I get a job.
You'll pass, you'll get a job.
He seemed so confident. I think that's why I fell for him. He believed in me. He killed those men, Sal. I know he did.
Phone calls, Pentito, Marisa Piranesi. Where's the evidence? I know Franco. I know the man he is, and so do you. I know he's not capable of these crimes. All you know for certain about that night is that you met and fell in love. And so did he.
Where's the evidence? In a shoebox, I now realised, which the police had overlooked. I had married a murderer. That much was clear to me, whatever Salvatore said. Marisa Piranesi had been right. I had turned a blind eye. And then it all got even worse. Hello?
Caterina, it's Sal. I have some bad news.
2 businessmen known to be close associates of Franco Riccardi died when their private jet exploded shortly after takeoff.
Clemente and Raffaele, your closest friends, both gone. No one owned up to the bombing. Perhaps anyone could have killed Nino, but not anyone could have accomplished this. There were only 2 rivals who could have done this: the Caporino and the shadow forces of the state. I prayed it was the Caporino. That way at least we'd stand a chance. My grandfather always told me, don't get involved in war, no matter whose it is. One thing leads to another, and it's always worse than you can imagine. One thing leads to another. Isn't that always the way? Emilio Dante had confessed. You had been arrested. Nino had been killed. And now we found ourselves at war. All eyes were on me.
We need to respond. We can't sit back and do nothing.
Yes.
The word is, it's the Caporino. They're gloating. They may as well be putting adverts in the papers. May I speak frankly?
I insist upon it.
A lot of people, they're very anxious.
Of course.
They're expecting you to cut and run, take Antonella and Amadeo and get out while you can. But then what? What do you do? Because Amadeo isn't safe and never will be. Are you going to spend your entire lives waiting for the knock on the door? Because it will come. One day it will.
All eyes were on me. And what I saw in them was fear. The fear that I would betray them. The fear that I'd abandon them.
Our men need reassurance. They need real leadership. Otherwise the temple is going to come crashing down. And it's going to be horrific for a lot of people. Some guys are already jumping ship, trying to go over to the Caporinos while they can.
So I don't know what to do.
Just say the word.
What word?
We've got to hit back. You have got to send a message that you're in charge. Otherwise we're finished. Your family is finished. And a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on us are going to be out on the street. Men in prison who've sacrificed a lot to stay true to their allegiance to us are suddenly going to be defenseless. Men in Poggioreale who've been loyal to us for years will be killed, just to be on the safe side. To wipe us out, to eradicate us. So that even if Franco were to be released from prison a year from now, he'd be powerless to resurrect the Riccardi Empire. That's what's going to happen if you leave. But I think most importantly for you, and which I cannot stress enough, whether you're in Canada or Switzerland or Timbuktu, Amadeo will never be safe.
Laura Mascagni's funeral was held a few days later, and I was asked to go. I couldn't refuse, but I dreaded it. Because it was our son, after all, who had led the young girl to her death, even if he didn't know it. All eyes were on me.
Thank you for coming, Signora Riccardi.
We're honoured that you've come.
Thank you. I cannot begin to express my sadness at your loss.
Thank you.
Laura. That was my mother's name. And Laura's father reminded me of my father in the months before he died. Old before his time through emphysema.
Help us, Signora Riccardi, please.
We implore you to find the men that did this to our daughter, who did this to your son, and end their days. Please do that for us. Please avenge this dreadful act and give us justice.
I found myself vowing that I would.
Tomorrow, in the final episode, Caterina finally knows the truth about Franco, but can she commit murder for the honour of her family?